So welcome participants to another session of MOOC course on disaster management. I am Shahab Fazal, faculty in the Department of Geography at Aligarh Muslim University. In our previous discussion, if you recall, we explored the term disaster, and I also tried to highlight its different perspectives, various definitions and approaches, etc. And also, I tried to figure out the basic concepts of disaster studies. And further, we also tried to understand the modern philosophy, the concepts, and also the paradigm shift in disaster studies. So now, you might have fair idea of the term disaster, its characteristic features, and also the broad concepts of disaster studies. If I can revise it very quickly, the context of disaster, I may say that a disaster is an event or situation that causes significant crisis situation, destruction, disruption, leading to loss of life, property and livelihoods, economy, environment, etc., etc. Now, these losses are massive that require external support to overcome the crisis situation. They are sudden in nature. Disasters are sudden in nature. So the event is either unexpected or the preparation is not effective, adequate enough. Now these events may inflict losses in different ways, in the form of loss of life, property, loss of resources, destruction to the infrastructure, or even the environment may be degraded or harmed. I would say the entire life system, which possesses many elements, and during this crisis situation caused by disasters, each one of them, they observe adverse impact. These adverse impacts may be on one system of the life of human being, some systems or many of them, or maybe all of them. So, disasters are the events which causes enormous losses, and the cost of disasters are increasing day by day. With the kind of development human beings have achieved, now any disastrous event, it results into severe economic losses also. So moving ahead today in this session, we would look into its different types. Disasters are of many types. Generally, we classify them into natural or human-generated calamities. These disasters lead to a significant loss of human life, destruction to the natural environment, private property, or public infrastructure. So the losses can be of different type because of these severe crisis situation, disastrous event. And as I have said earlier also, that these disasters, these events may be relatively sudden, such as an earthquake or an oil spill, etc. Or it may unfold over a longer period of time, such as pandemic or climatic disruption, or more commonly, the example of longer duration occurrence of disaster may be drought, which is called as creeping disaster. India has long been prone to natural calamities such as floods, droughts, cyclones, earthquake, landslides, forest fires, and other man-made disasters involving chemical, biological, radioactive elements, which highlight the need for improved mitigation, preparation and response mechanisms. I gave the example of India because India has great physical, natural and socio-economic disparity, diversity. And India is actively adopting disaster management measures such as the establishment of NDMA, state level SDMAs, as well as at the global level by signing the Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction or Hyogo Framework for Action. So that way, India as a country it is very sensitive towards disaster management efforts, which reflects the kind of development and progress as society we have achieved. We also contribute in helping others to overcome during any crisis situation. And the role of NDMAs is very significant in these crisis situations. So looking into the disaster types, as you all are aware, the disasters, both natural and man-made, have shaped the human history and continue to impact our lives in significant ways. So understanding the different types of disasters is crucial for effective disaster management and preparedness. So natural disasters are catastrophic event that occurs largely due to natural processes of the earth, over the earth. The natural disasters that occur naturally are known as nature-induced events such as earthquakes, cyclones, tsunamis, even heat waves, landslides, floods, drought, etc. Now these events, these disasters occur both seasonally in a specific time period, during a specific month of the year, period of the year, in a specific season, but it might be without warning, subjecting the affected areas to frequent periods, durations of insecurity, disruption, and economic losses. On the contrary, man-made disasters or man-induced disasters are the result of human actions and can be just as devastating as natural disasters. But these events often stem from negligence, mismanagement, accidents, deliberate actions. It can be also unintentional actions. Some common examples of man-made disasters can be industrial accidents, wars, or even environmental pollution, which are the outcome of human activities, intense human activities, where we use, misuse, or pollute the resources. There is another kind of type of disasters, compound or combinational disasters. These combinational disasters are incidents where a single hazardous event sets off a sequence of other events. A good example could be an earthquake leading to disruption in supply channels, leading to, say, starvation or shortage of food or shortage of other resources, maybe water for consumption, daily usage, drinking water, medicines, the supply of medicine. Now, all of this disruptive supply chains aggravate the primary disaster impact, which in this example was earthquake. So these sequences can be rapid or occur over a protracted period, challenging our ability to respond and recover. These combinational disasters are different in nature. They involve a breakdown of authority, societal structures, and political systems also, often intensified by conflict or deep-rooted social inequalities. These disasters are not only about the immediate physical impact, but also about the complex human political dimensions, social dimensions that they unravel. So understanding the types of disaster, whether it is natural or man-made or combination of both, is essential for developing effective strategies to minimize the losses and to cope or overcome effectively to this crisis situation. While natural disasters are often unavoidable, their impact can be mitigated through preparedness and resilience building. On the other hand, man-made disasters can often be prevented through stringent safety measures, regulations, and also sensitizing the general masses and sensitize them, make them aware about the various events, negligence, mismanagement, and to be careful about these human errors. Now in this slide, I'm trying to highlight the causative factors. So on the basis of causative factors, natural disasters can be classified into geophysical disasters, the events like earthquake or volcanoes. They are dependent on endogenetic forces, the forces which originate and mostly result into events which are under the surface of the earth, but its impact is felt over the earth's surface with the losses to human beings. Another can be the hydrological disasters like floods, or floods would be because of greater volume of water. Opposite to it may be the drought, where there would be deficiency and scarcity of water or moisture in different ways, which would result into detrimental impact on life and property of the human being. So drought would also be one of the examples. There can be meteorological disasters such as cyclones or tornado, etc. Another type of disaster can be the biological disasters, which relates with health-related epidemics, pandemics like dengue, malaria, or even in recent past we had corona epidemic. Another type of natural disasters which are not very common, they are planetary disasters. Sometimes the meteors, etc., they strike the earth's surface. And as I am saying that they are very rarely happens, but this can also be one of the type of natural disaster. On the contrary, similarly, anthropogenic or man-made, man-induced disasters, it can be classified into technological disasters, where technological development which are incorporated into human activities, and due to any reason, due to negligence, mismanagement, error, the technology leads to some kind of losses, maybe in the form of toxic spills, nuclear reactor failure, etc. These incidents, these events may be put into man-induced disasters, but because of technological events, the events which are responsible on technology. Another kind of man-made disasters can be accidental disasters. These may be because of some errors committed by the human being. Any fire disaster, infrastructural failure, transportational accidents, etc. They all can be put into accidental disasters. Another could be the conflict events, conflict among the group of people, conflict among society, nations, which leads to war, riots, terrorism, etc. They are conflict events. There is also man-made disasters which are because of mismanagement of human activities. The disasters such as crowd rush, stampede, etc. They are good example of mismanagement. Another set of man-induced disaster can be negligence related. So negligence-induced disasters such as, say, food poisoning, liquor tragedy, or even at different levels accidents which take places. They can also be called as mismanaged events. Now you see, here you would find that there is large-scale overlapping which leads to complexity of the event. And as I have mentioned earlier, that there are combinational disasters also, where one situation leads to another situation, or one event triggers another set of events, and all of them culminate into inflicting losses to the human being. So, on the basis of causative factors, we have seen as to how disasters unravel and cause losses to the human being. There may be some other classification also, although we may be discussing the type of disasters in detail in our later discussions with all of you. But I am here only giving you reference of different kinds of disaster. So one classification can be on the basis of duration of occurrence. So it can be either slow onset disasters or rapid onset disasters. That means the occurrence of the disasters would be very rapid or slowly it will happen. The example of slow onset disasters are drought. While you know that in a very short time period of time, earthquake may occur. So that is a good example of rapid onset of disaster. Another classification can be on the basis of its impact duration, where the impact would be instantly felt. The losses would be instantly felt because of any event. Whereas some disasters impact slowly. So, short impact disasters like landslide or tornado, earthquake, while long impact disasters, the examples are again drought or even floods. It's not instantly impact adversely to the human being. It might take some time. Drought takes a very long period of time and it continue to affect for a longer period of time. It cannot be, the situation may not be changed very quickly. Another classification can be of modern urban lifestyle related disasters. For example, the financial disasters, where all kinds of frauds, banking frauds, online frauds, which each one of us now are familiar with. They are good example of these modern day urban lifestyle related disasters. A more common urban lifestyle related modern day disaster can be civil or public disorder also. These disasters which are because of irregularities and disparities in the urban society, which lead to civil disorder, where societal norms or civil laws are disrespected or violated, like violent protests, riots, etc., where the societal norms are not followed. The state laws, they are disobeyed. So all these situations, they also result into some kind of losses, and these losses can be put into the category of urban lifestyle related disasters, civil disorder disasters. So disaster risks are compounded by physical human disparities. And these disparities are very glaring in our country. In India, you look into all dimensions related with human existence in the Indian subcontinent. You would find that there is large-scale natural, social, economic disparities. Its climatic conditions, changing demographic, socioeconomic condition, unplanned urbanization, environmental degradation and deterioration, and more prominent, I may say, the impacts of climate change, etc. So this can be further understood by comprehending the natural setting of any geographic space. Like I would put them into geographical factors. For example, some of the natural factors, natural disasters, they have specific situations which instigate or slow down the occurrence of any event, any natural event. For example, tectonic plates among the geographical factors. The geotectonic features in our country, the Himalayan region and its adjacent alluvial plains, make this region susceptible to earthquake, landslide, soil erosion, avalanches, etc. So this tectonic plate, they are important in the context of the occurrence of or the causes of disasters. The location. You see, for example, if we continue with the example of our country India, the location of India being situated in the tropical region, it is more prone to natural disasters such as cyclones, heat waves, cold waves, varied patterns of rainfall causing floods and droughts, etc. The rainfall patterns, as India mainly dependent on monsoon rains, seasonal rains, the rainfall pattern is not uniform across India. In some places like Assam, Bihar, there are frequent floods, whereas the western part of our country, including Rajasthan, Gujarat, the rain shadow areas of Maharashtra, they are short of rainfall in comparison to our eastern states. Then there is disparity among the existing infrastructure. There are regions which have poor or lack of infrastructure. Now, this lack of adequate infrastructure and services, unsafe housing, and inadequate or poor health services can turn the natural hazards into disasters. For example, poor solid waste management may block the stormwater and sewage networks, resulting into waterlogging and flooding. This is very common in many of the urban settlements in our country. Poor planning can also be attributed to some of the disasters. Poor planning, specifically in the context of urban planning, which is a big challenge in the form of inadequate, as I gave you the example of drainage infrastructure. There is also rapid unregulated growth in cities, which have caused the city areas very commonly have incidents like urban flooding. Good example may be Chennai, Mumbai, which experiences severe flash floods almost every year. It is more because of poor or inadequate planning. We also know that our country has large population. So there is greater competition for resources, which leads to depleting or overexploited resources, which results into, you see, the example is of deforestation, forest degradation, land degradation, soil erosion, and all of them, they are linked to some other combinational disasters. The example could be the landslides that are triggered by a single event of heavy rainfall. Deforestation may also cause forest fires, flooding in forest areas. And in modern day, in present day, we also have the challenge of climate change, which has aggravated the risk of disasters across the world, including India. Since there is global warming phenomena, and this global warming phenomena has resulted into all kinds of variations in weather elements. Temperature rise, erratic rainfall, rising humidity level, all of them, along with erratic movement of cyclones, tornadoes, we have more incidents of drought areas, erratic rainfall resulting into high volume of rainfall in desert area or relatively drier areas. The climate change has also resulted into increase of surface temperature cyclone formation and their behavior, intense, strong wind speeds, sea level rise. There are many phenomena which we may attribute to the climate change issues. So the different types of disasters, and depending on their different nature, their causes are also different. Natural disaster is not a new phenomenon. These natural events have occurred since the earth began forming and continue to cause serious damage and loss of life all over the globe right through our geological history. But the root causes of most of these natural disasters that occur on earth can be attributed to the imbalance created in our environment, the transformations in the environment due to intense human activities. This imbalance may be either in the form of tectonic or meteorological or environmental or many other reasons or circumstances, and they individually or collectively affect these imbalances to culminate into adverse happenings in the form of disasters. Though it also a fact that we cannot blame anyone, because this is just one of the few reasons. Natural disasters like earthquake, floods, etc. have also occurred in the past era when the human beings were far away from modernization. So it would be not fair enough to blame modernization for the same, but yes, the intense activities, they have accelerated all these processes and the destruction is widespread. More importantly, I would also like to highlight that with time, we are 8 billion over the Earth's surface. So the land mass remained the same. In last 100 years, from 1.4 billion, we have risen to 8 billion. So whenever these natural or man-made events take place, the losses to the infrastructure and the losses to life and everything would be greater, because the number of people and development resulted into greater accumulation of property and spread of infrastructure. The disasters are more common and more expensive. So there are many situations which may be attributed as causative factors for disaster. One of the main reasons for adverse impact of disastrous event is the prevailing disparity in the society, especially the prevailing poverty in the society that leads to greater impacts during the crisis situation. Now, the social economic disparity, I would say the two group of people with haves and have-nots, all the time, the have-nots would be the greater sufferer. So another causal factor can be the large population, which is increasing rapidly day by day. So the larger population, as I have mentioned earlier, means greater competition for available resources, where lack of or lesser access to resources leads to greater vulnerability to adverse situation. Urbanization can also be attributed as one of the causative factors in modern times. Again, because of higher concentration of population within a smaller geographical space, with greater disparity among the people, resulted into enhanced vulnerability. Within the urban areas, because of better well-being, they also draw more resources, creating a distinct divide between haves and have-nots. And this disparity leads to different kind of man-induced disasters also. Another related causative factor can be the environmental degradation, which is also an outcome of intense human activities over the Earth's surface, where we utilize the resources, use the resources, also misuse the resources. And with their misuse, we actually pollute the resources. We degrade the quality of some of the resources. Another causative factor can be modern day social change. It is also one very important causal factor for disasters. If I can give you the example of, say, migration or modern day livelihood related challenges like unemployment, cultural transitions, materialistic mindset, these are some of very important social changes which again results into increasing vulnerability to specific group of people. In modern day, increasing awareness and spread of information can also be attributed as one of the important causal factors of disaster. Similarly, modern day conflicts and unrest, they also lead to crisis situation. All in all, I would say that disasters have become more complex, more common, more frequent, and more widespread. Now, we will look into what are the implications of disasters. So, disasters, whether natural or man-made, have consequences on both humans as well as their surrounding, the environment. Different disasters bring with them different detrimental effects. If I can summarize them, the first adverse impact could be said to be on loss of life and property, which is the core support asset of human being. Now, with a dense population living in a limited area, there is a tremendous loss of life and property. It also leads to the loss of their livelihood in terms of agricultural land loss or animal life loss. We can relate it with economic losses also. So, due to the destruction of public and private infrastructure and loss of tourism, say, the burden shifts to the public exchequer. According to global insurance groups, natural disasters in India have caused economic damages of about 35 billions, somewhere around 273 crores of rupees during the last 10 years. The interruption of normal business. Disasters led to interruption in many services, transportation, communication, public gatherings. And most of the companies in the country do not have a recovery plan in place for their vital infrastructure during the times of both man-made or natural disasters. A good example is you find that when coronavirus impacted the country, we had lost many economic activities, many sectors, they crumbled under the pressure of lack of activities, lack of economic activities. There are also environmental losses. It includes natural resource depletion, reduced access to clean resources, maybe it is air, safe water, diminishing biodiversity, soil degradation, etc. For example, if I can relate the landslide, which can wipe out large tracts of forest, destroying wildlife habitat and remove productive soil, upper layer soil from the slopes. So, environmental loss due to forest fire, such as the catastrophe forest fire, the example can be of Australia, frequent forest fire in our hill states in Uttarakhand. A more prominent example of Amazon forest fire, they all result into great large-scale environmental losses. The tropical cyclones significantly impact coastal communities, particularly the example of coral reefs, which is resulting into depletion of coral reef cover in the oceans. There is also incidence of species diversity being reduced. It also have health effects. Man-made disasters such as nuclear accidents, oil spills, or the very infamous Bhopal gas tragedy. Still, we are observing the health impact due to Bhopal gas tragedy. There can be neurological disorder, acute radiation syndrome, etc. due to nuclear reactor failure. There are also political and governmental challenges. For example, managing the relief, recovery, rebuilding, rehabilitation efforts, they often require massive resources or conflicts over aid where unequal distribution of assistance can lead to tension or political instability, social friction. Lastly, one major disaster in a country like India may induce after effects like poverty, hunger, malnutrition, starvation, etc. So, to sum up, the resilience of a community or society plays a big role in how they manage these implications. Disasters are not just about immediate destruction, they often leave deep, long term effects that ripple through societies. That is why capacity building and sensitization to these issues are critical. What do you think about it? What is your take, your opinion on causative factors and implications of disasters? Why and how they impact differently in terms of space and time? Comment. I end up this session. Happy learning.